Other news, with just 5 days before Christmas, the holiday spirit is more alive than ever in the Philippines, especially in malls. As Ara Perez tells us, foot traffic in malls has reached around 100,000 daily.
Clothes are top of the shopping list, meant for twins Adi and Ida. Their mother, Angela Antonio, said it has been her tradition with her husband to go to this mall, even when they were still dating.
Super special kasi hindi kami nakalabas, nagbuntis ako ng pandemic, hindi nakapamili ng maternity dress, nanganak ng pandemic, hindi nakapamili gano'n ng mga gamit ng twins. So, this is the first time na nakalabas kami as family.
The Green Hills Night Market is open from 4 to 11 p.m. and until 9 p.m. for Green Hills Mall. The mall will remain open until 10 p.m. during Christmas and New Year. Sellers said it has been months since the number of mall goers started increasing.
Every day na kasi ma'am, October nagsimula ma'am, dagsa ng tao karami.
The customers would really want to see are the great finds in which we have the gift items, the gadgets, and delicacies as pasalubongs. We have gift items pertaining to Christmas, to home decors, and to other purchases such as mga souvenirs. We have locally made clothes here as well.
Big malls in the National Capital Region are operational from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. But these will close earlier, between 7 and 8 p.m. on December 24 and 31 to give time to their personnel to come home to their families. The social media pages of these establishments may be monitored for updates.
Napapansin namin sa different Ayala malls ay dumami na talaga ang mga tao. Though per mall, it varies talaga ang foot traffic, but like some malls, nagdodoble na yung foot traffic. Iba namang malls, nagre-reach na up to 200,000. Extra ingat pa rin po tayo sa ating mga customers, diba, while doing their Christmas shopping and while even dining. It's best siguro once the mall opens, diba, umpisahan na natin para, diba, maaga pa lang matapos na tayo at hindi rin tayo masabay sa holiday rush.
Siguro sa pag-manage ng foot traffic, one of our concerns would be, of course, yung adequate parking spaces. So, marami tayong in-adjust dito, so we can continuously offer adequate parking spaces for our shoppers.
In Divisoria, the crowd is expected to increase starting December 22 to 24, as some stalls will remain open as long as there are shoppers.
At maaari, huwag na magsama ng mga bata, kasi ang bata, nawawala eh. Pero kung talagang hindi kayang iwan sa bahay, bantayan mabuti. Dahil na lang yung talagang saktong perang pangmimili, yung cellphone din nila, ingatan mabuti.
Mall-goers have been advised to be mindful of themselves and their belongings as they once again enjoy the Christmas and holiday season outside. Ara Perez, ABS-CBN News.
Foot traffic in travel hubs also expected to balloon. The Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX, expects up to 170,000 passengers daily this week. On Saturday alone, the number of passengers in the terminal reached 168,000. That's double the figures recorded last year.
Ngayon, hindi na po ganun karami yung hinihingi mga dokumento, no, sa ating mga manlalakbay. Hindi na po sila hinahanapan ng mga vaccination cards or wala na po yan mga COVID tests, no? Wala na po mga antigen at kung ano-ano ba. Kaya naman napakarami talagang bumabiyahe ngayon.
The holiday rush in the Philippines, or at least in Metro Manila, equates to a so-called Carmageddon, again putting a spotlight on the country's seemingly narrowing roads and debilitated transport system. To add to that, commuters also have to deal with overcharging taxis and ride-hailing services. Let's now talk to Ira Cruz, Director of Transport Advocacy Group AltMobility PH. Ira, good to have you with us again.
How are you, Denise?
Well, I wish, I can say that I'm doing better with the road and the traffic, but I bet some of the commuters are having a harder time. Can you tell us more, I guess, on how, a lot of people are reacting to this massive lack of transportation options, especially during this holiday season?
Right. Obviously, you've heard a lot of complaints coming from the general commuting public about how difficult it has been to catch a ride, how prices of TNBS and even TNCs are increasing. But Denise, as I was thinking about these reactions, Back in March, it was a return to work discussion. Sometime in September, it became a return to school discussion. And now we're talking about Christmas Carmageddon in December. So I can just imagine in February, are you going to be talking about a Valentine's Carmageddon? I guess the pattern that I'm trying to surface here is that these are recurring issues in mobility in Metro Manila that are really just manifestations of the government's continuing failure, continuing avoidance, or maybe even a lack of interest to address very fundamental issues to improve mobility in our country, which results to these things. We should be welcoming developments such as people coming to the malls to go shopping. It helps the economy. We've talked about that middle of this year, about how the government wants to revive the economy by reopening it. And yet something like transportation that's supposed to support this activity is not getting the attention that it needs, and the attention that it badly needs for several decades now.
Why do you think, I guess, the short-term solutions that the government has offered didn't work, like extending the free bus ride until December 31, making sure also that the schedules for these bus rides are a bit later to accommodate people in their Christmas shopping, and of course putting out, I guess, more transportation. But why did these things that they planned for, or they hoped to be able to ease the burden for commuters, did not help at all?
Well, because for several years now, what the government has been doing is coming up with half-baked solutions, inefficient solutions, stopgap measures. In order for them, or for the government, or for us to really improve our mobility, they need to be able to get down and dirty, if you may, in solving the fundamental issues. Things like odd-even scheme, mabuhay lanes, adjusting operating hours of malls. These are just stopgap measures. And that's primarily the reason why it hasn't really been effective, because it doesn't get down and it doesn't address issues that are very, as I've mentioned, very fundamental, very basic issues that needs to be addressed, or actually has been unaddressed for several decades now. When, like, for instance, there's so much focus on big ticket prices such as railways, subways, MRTs, and all that, and yet government is failing to understand that these solutions, while important, will not be available to the public until 5 or 10 years' time, and even then, railways cannot solve our mobility issues on its own. It has to function together with other modes of transportation, and that leads us to a discussion of, is there really a transportation system to begin with? If you look at the journey of everybody, us included, from the moment we step out of the house to the time we get to work, we've taken on multiple modes of transportation, from walking, maybe rail or your car, or biking. And so all of these components have to work together. It's about the government looking at how all of these modes of transportation coordinate, hand over, and work with each other to be able to create a system. In the news article that came before our discussion, they were talking about increasing the parking supply in malls. And what this just reveals is that we're only focusing on one mode of transportation, when in fact, majority of the people going to malls and shopping don't even own cars.
Now, you've talked about the lack of an existence of a transportation system, but how about also the addition of surge prices that's making it even harder for people, of course, to go to where they want to go?
Right. Well, of course, those are the market forces coming at play, right? And there is, of course, a shortage. There's a finite amount, for instance, PNBS options, and there's a large demand for it. So that's just economics for you. Whereas if there's a large demand and a little supply, then the prices go up. And which is why it's very important for the government to be able to provide our cities with multiple modes of transportation. The characteristic of great cities or good cities or cities that sincerely serve the public are cities that offer multiple modes of transportation. And so, of course, now that a lot of people are, we have such a high car dependence, and obviously the demand for these things is very high, which probably accounts for increasing prices. Of course, there's regulation, and there's much to be talked about in terms of how effective is government in fact enforcing these price guards or price limits. But it doesn't remove the fact that in order for us to be able to ease or improve road congestion, or at least ease movement of traffic in Metro Manila, that we need to be able to provide multiple modes of transportation to people and modes of transportation that coordinate with each other. It's not just about it's not one or the other. It's not just rail or jeepneys. It has to be both of them working together. Sidewalks that hand over properly, seamlessly to a jeepney that has a proper stop at an MRT station, and so on and so forth, in order for us to improve mobility. And that's what I mean by the government not addressing fundamental issues, and in fact, perhaps there's not even a system of transportation to speak of.
Now, moving on to another issue, there was this tweet that went viral on social media, on Twitter, saying, of course, how hard it was to get, I guess, a taxi or a Grab just coming home from the airport. And now suddenly the Manila International Airport Authority has joined hands with Grab Philippines to enhance transport service at the NAIA. And it's called Airport to Anywhere. What do you think of this solution? Does this help?
Well, of course, we're happy that private companies have come forward to offer solutions. But you see, this mode of transportation is not available to everybody. I mean, obviously, some people who arrive at airports might find this too expensive. But at the same time, cars is not the efficient way to move people. What it does is that it just adds to the volume of vehicles that are ferrying a small number of people. So it has to be, while of course you have to have cars, taxis, and all that stuff in airports, you also have to have other options like mass public transportation, like buses or jeepneys, that service the airport, so that it's one, an option that more people can afford, and number two, it's just a more efficient way of moving people.
Ira Cruz, Director of Transport Advocacy Group AltMobility PH. Ira, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Denise. See you again soon.
And speaking of the